He had boarded hundreds of flights before, but nothing prepared him for the cold sting of humiliation waiting just a few feet from his seat. When the gate agent's eyes scanned his boarding pass, her smile flickered, then vanished. In that split second, something shifted in the air, something he had felt too many times, but hoped he'd left behind. She told him to step aside, her tone sharp, her expression filled with something he recognized instantly: doubt. Not in the system, but in him, in who he was, in what he looked like. Passengers paused, watching, whispering, judging. The first-class cabin that he rightfully belonged to seemed suddenly unreachable, as if an invisible barrier had risen between him and the luxury he had paid for. The humiliation was sharp, the injustice familiar yet freshly painful. He tried to steady his breath, to keep his composure. But deep inside a storm was building, a storm, ready to break open everything the airline thought it could hide. What none of them knew, not the gate agent, not the flight crew, not the watching passengers, was that this moment would not end the way they expected. One wrong assumption, one discriminatory act, one call later. The airline would never be the same. Watch until the end. Wait a second. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. And make sure to subscribe for more powerful and inspiring stories just like this one. Nathaniel Carter was not just another passenger rushing to catch a flight. He was a man who had built his life from the ground up. A black CEO in a competitive tech world. He had risen through layers of doubt and walls built by those who never believed someone like him could lead. He traveled often for work, negotiating deals, guiding young entrepreneurs, and speaking at conferences. Airports had become almost a second home: predictable, efficient, transactional. But even in this fast-paced routine, he never honestly forgot the battles he had fought to stand where he stood. That morning had been like any other. He arrived early, dressed sharply, his briefcase organized, his itinerary streamlined. He had just left a major conference where he announced an initiative supporting minority-led startups, something that had drawn wide praise and unexpected criticism. Still, he boarded his connecting flight with a sense of accomplishment. The terminal buzzed with the ordinary chaos of travel: rolling suitcases, intercom announcements, coffee runs. First class was a privilege he paid for, not to flaunt, but because he valued comfort while juggling endless responsibilities. He had earned it every mile, every upgrade, every late-night flight, yet beneath his composed exterior, a quiet tension always lingered. Racism didn't disappear simply because he succeeded. In boardrooms, hotel lobbies, high-end restaurants, he had felt it in glances, assumptions, and subtle comments. Still, he pressed forward, refusing to shrink himself for anyone's comfort, but on this flight something felt different. He brushed it off at first, unaware that he was stepping into a moment that would expose a hidden rot within the airline, one act of discrimination that would ignite a firestorm and shake an entire corporation to its core. The moment his boarding pass was scanned, the energy shifted. Nathaniel felt it instantly, like a subtle temperature change. The gate agent's cheerful rhythm halted when she saw his seat assignment. Her eyes narrowed, her posture stiffened, and her voice lost all warmth. She asked him to step aside for a verification check. Still, the hesitation in her expression revealed something deeper, something far more personal. Passengers behind him watched with growing curiosity. A few exchanged knowing looks, while others rolled their eyes as if he were causing a delay. Every second of waiting scraped against his dignity. He could feel the invisible weight of judgment pressing on him. The agent typed aggressively, rechecked the pass, and frowned as though something didn't add up. He knew exactly what she was thinking. How could he afford this seat? Why was he here? She called a supervisor, who arrived with the same skeptical stare. They whispered, glancing at him repeatedly as if he were a problem to be solved. Then came the words that made his heart clench, a claim that his ticket must have been upgraded by mistake. He showed his receipt, his membership status, everything they asked for. Still, they refused to budge. Passengers in first class shifted uncomfortably as the commotion continued. A few smirked discreetly, while others looked away. It was as if the airline itself had decided that his presence didn't belong in the space he had paid for. Nathaniel could feel anger rising, but he swallowed it. Knowing how quickly stereotypes could be weaponized against him, then the situation escalated. The staff suggested he move to economy until they could sort it out later, insisting there was no time to resolve the issue before departure. He felt the sting of the suggestion. Move to the back where we think you belong. A flight attendant joined in, her face already set with judgment. She didn't ask questions. She didn't look at his documents. She echoed what the others had said, reinforcing the idea that Nathaniel didn't deserve the seat named after him. As more passengers boarded, the pressure intensified. The staff rushed him, their voices firm, their expressions unyielding. They tried to make him feel small, misplaced, unworthy of the comfort he had paid for. Nathaniel clenched his jaw, knowing the storm inside him was approaching its breaking point, but what they didn't know, what they couldn't have predicted, was that Nathaniel wasn't just a CEO, he was connected to people who knew how to expose injustice on a global scale, and the airline was about to learn that underestimating him would cost them more than they ever imagined. The supervisor's final decision landed like a slap. Nathaniel was removed from the first-class list entirely. They insisted it wasn't discrimination, just a system error, even though every explanation contradicted the last. As passengers continued to stare, the humiliation became unbearable. But beneath that humiliation rose something more substantial: resolve. He stepped aside, opened his phone, and made one call. Not to complain, not to argue, but to report a corporate-level violation to a federal agency that monitored discriminatory business practices. He also had contacts in the press, attorneys specializing in civil rights, and board members with influence in industries the airline depended on. Within minutes, the agency flagged the incident. Within an hour, a civil rights attorney was on the case. Before the plane even taxied, news departments were alerted. The airline, unaware of the storm brewing, prepared for takeoff like nothing had happened. But they were seconds away from disaster. As Nathaniel watched the aircraft door close without him, he felt a strange calm. The humiliation he endured was now fuel for a battle he knew he would win. The airline didn't just deny him a seat. They denied his humanity. And that decision was about to explode worldwide. By the next morning, the story had gone viral. Headlines across major networks exposed the airline's actions, backed by video from another passenger who had recorded the entire scene. Social media erupted with outrage, and thousands shared their own stories of discrimination in travel. The airline scrambled to release statements, but every attempt only fueled more anger. Lawsuits formed. Sponsors pulled out. Stock prices dipped. Federal investigators launched a full inquiry. Just days later, the airline's CEO was forced to resign, and multiple employees involved in the incident were suspended pending legal review. Nathaniel didn't seek revenge. He sought accountability. And he got it. The incident sparked mandatory anti-discrimination training across the industry and opened the door for long-overdue regulatory changes. Nathaniel continued his work, now more determined than ever. His story became a catalyst, a reminder that racism doesn't disappear in luxury cabins or corporate spaces. It simply hides until someone forces it into the light, and so the question remains: how many more stories like Nathaniel's must surface before society finally confronts the injustice woven into everyday life? Which country and city are you watching from? Take care.